The most exciting addition to my garden in quite a while is this native mulberry here, and the scientific name for this one, Pipturus argentis. I feel like I did a better job with that one, and it's a full sun, part shade, really a tree, but it can apparently be hedged as well. As you can see here, it's quite small. We've only recently put it in. They do come in a male and a female. Most people will be aware of what a mulberry is. This is the Australian native version of it. Something a little bit specific to Australia. And while it has a very different kind of leaf, it's got a much smaller leaf than what you'd expect on a regular mulberry. The little berries that are growing on it do look a lot like a mulberry already. And from what I understand, they end up as kind of a round berry, white in colour, and quite nice to eat. So I'm going to be interested to see if we get any off this one here. We bought a female plant that already had fruit growing on it or berries growing on it, but you will need a male and a female, and that is something that we're going to have to keep an eye on to make sure we pick up the male plant to go in somewhere nearby so that we don't end up with no fruit, because that would be very, very disappointing. These, I understand, I think are in southeast Queensland. We're in northern New South Wales, so we're kind of somewhat in the area. So it is maybe not particularly native to our specific area, but we're pretty close to where they naturally grow. Apparently these do like very, very good drainage, but they also like to be kept moist, which sometimes when you look at kind of those recommendations, you go, all right, which is it? Particularly here, because it's just going to be in the ground, it's not going to get a lot of support, it's not going to get a lot of watering, things like that. I picked this spot because the soil here is quite good. We do have a bit of clay, so I'm hoping that's not going to be an issue. They're meant to be sand tolerant, but obviously we're not that near to the coast here. The clay kind of sandy soil probably does fit that somewhat, but I was more worried about the moisture side of things with it not likely to be getting any extra water. So hopefully this location here will do well. The fact they go to 3 to 8 meters does make them a very, very big tree if you just let them go. But the other fact that you can probably hedge them, and they're recommended as a native edible hedge, does give you a little bit of an idea of what you could potentially do with one of these. And certainly I'm quite sure I've seen these plants before, I've just never seen them with berries on them. So yeah, it's an interesting one and a very cool addition to the garden, because again, we're adding an Australian native plant, something which is going to have berries on it. We're really keen to try those out, and yeah, just looking forward to it. And just to give you a look at another native that we've planted in this little region of the garden here, where we're trying to keep a lot of the natives in more of a kind of contained area, is this native gardenia. So again, that's like an Australian native gardenia, because obviously my audience is probably some people overseas as well, and native can mean anything depending on where you are. But this is a native gardenia. As you can see, it's got a much bigger leaf than the traditional gardenia, generally speaking. I haven't had any flowers obviously from this, but it seems to be going quite well in this location, which is great, and we'll see how we go. I don't believe there's any fruit on this one, but I'm not really 100% sure on that one. But it's a nice, cool little addition to the garden. Now, the final plant that I just want to give you a quick look at is another Australian native. However, this one is from far, far away. This is the Fraser Island apple, and you can see it's this cool little tree here. Obviously, we are growing some regular apples, but the idea of growing an Australian apple was a pretty attractive one. And so when we saw this, we thought we'd grab that, put it in the ground, see how we go. Not too much stress either way, but again, we're trying to kind of add as many of those native fruit-bearing plants as we can, and just to see how they go. And we're doing that in kind of addition to all the regular fruit and vegetable that we're planting as well. And I guess the reason I find this interesting is because, number one, the natives, particularly if they're to the proper region that you're in, should be pretty well suited to your conditions, your rainfall, everything like that, if you pick a good spot. And then on top of that, you're getting something quite unusual quite often from the Australian bush tucker that people often haven't heard of, you haven't tried it before. So it makes it a bit of an extra adventure planting this kind of plant and seeing how you can go with it. So a really cool thing. One I definitely recommend. I think the native gardenia that I just showed you, you should be able to find them pretty widely in Australia. And of course this, what was it called again? I keep forgetting, the Fraser Island apple. That I've seen in a couple of nurseries, so just keep an eye out for it. And I think even Bunnings probably has them every now and then, so just keep an eye out. Okay, so the second plant I wanted to have a look at was our midgeum or medium, G or a Y in the middle there, depending on who you talk to. Also called the sandberry from what I've seen online, doing a little bit of research just to see how to get the best out of these. And as far as the scientific name, Ostromyretus dulcis. So I've butchered that one, but I'll put it up on the screen. Most delicious and like a blueberry. I don't know about that. I have tried some berries off one of these, not the new one, but off our older one that we planted a couple of months ago. And the berries themselves aren't particularly sweet. They've got a bit of a ginger-like flavour to them. They're an interesting flavour, but I don't know whether they were just overripe on our other bush, but they weren't particularly amazing, but I can definitely see some use for them. So this one here is a broader leafed variety, and then the original one we put in is a fine leafed variety. So to give you a bit of an idea, they just look very, very different. They're both meant to be a little bush that grows to say 1 metre tall, 1.5 metres wide, up to 2 metres tall, however, and you can hedge them. So if you're looking for an Australian native hedge, again, probably a good option, particularly if you want something with an edible aspect to it, so with a berry on it, and yeah, just something a little bit different. These I have seen for sale in multiple places. I've certainly seen them for sale at local nurseries in the Bush Tucker areas, and also of course at your local Bunnings you can pick these up. And I mean, they're not super cheap, but they're fairly reasonably priced, so it should be easy to add one of these to the garden. If you want to add just a native berry plant, berry shrub to your garden to get just a little bit more of that kind of, yeah, kind of native, more good for the environment, I guess you'd possibly say. I don't know about that one. And because we're in northern New South Wales, from what I understand, these grow from New South Wales up to Queensland. And so they are in our region and we're fairly close to the coast. So yeah, these should be very much something that would naturally grow in the area. And we're kind of adding some into our garden as a reflection of that. Naturally, anything that has a berry or is edible, I'm interested in, but these are a pretty cool addition. This location in the garden, it's kind of sun, or part shade, I should say. The soil here is pretty good. It does hold a bit of water and a bit of moisture. It does drain very, very well because we're at the top of a hill here. We're almost right up the top. And so it does seem like a pretty good environment. The other bush just over here, hidden away, is in some grass, but it's gone really, really well. So certainly I just thought putting this one in here near it, we should get similar results. This is in a little bit more sun, but they get morning and afternoon sun, but not too much of it. So it's kind of that ideal location, I would say. But yeah, there you go.